If you or a loved one are suffering from addiction or alcoholism, I'm here to tell you that there is help out there, even when it doesn't seem that way. You can attend or call the many great anonymous groups in your local community, or, of course, the SAMHSA Drug Addiction National Hotline found at 1-800-662-HELP. They provide free referral service in both English and Spanish 24 hours a day, as well as other information about drug addiction. There are hundreds of books, websites, and other resources, as well as joining us right here on Simply Difficult. This show is not affiliated with AA, NA, or other anonymous groups, just provides another safe place to listen, learn, and recover together. Me, I'm not a licensed professional. My name is Sam Speck, and I, too, am in recovery. I just have a microphone and a will to help myself and others recover. Through this program, we will bring on guests, including professionals in addiction counseling, psychology, and other recovering addicts sharing their advice, stories, and experience through addiction. Shows will be 1 hour long in a variety of big book work, step work, spiritual reading interpretation, DBT training, and professional advice interviews, as well as trying to normalize the simply difficult conversation you need to have with a loved one, or more importantly, yourself. What's up? Welcome in. It is Simply Difficult right here, right now. So far, SoundCloud, YouTube. We're hopefully going to try and get it out on as many of platforms as we possibly can. Try and get it in front of those that do need it. Simply Difficult, simply put, is a recovery podcast. Me, myself, as you heard there in the opening, no, I'm not a doctor. I did not go to school for that long. However, I do have some skills when it comes to radio producing. That is where my college money went, was to learn how to broadcast, be a journalist. Would have loved to have been in sports, and for the last 5 years have been in sports broadcasting. But now I also find myself in quite the loop that so many of you out there have found. And in fact, it really affects nearly 10% of America, and roughly estimated, I believe, over 200 million people worldwide. There's not really a true estimate that you could put to that, but addiction, alcoholism, and a dependency to something or some substance is a lot more common than you think. I myself am in recovery. I have now, for the last 5 years, been very much addicted to alcohol, to opiates, to marijuana, to many different substances myself, that only for the past year have I really started to put into action. And a big reason why is because pride, really, first of all, for myself. Not only that, but I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know who to talk with. Obviously, there is fabulous AA groups, NA groups, other anonymous groups that really, that's the name of the game. You can go and listen. You can go and learn. You can go and talk yourself. And that really is kind of what the premise of this show is. We are not affiliated with any anonymous groups, AA, NA. However, I would kind of like to shape what the form of the show is going to feel like, is kind of going to be like at an AA meeting. So maybe you're out there on your couch needing a little bit of inspiration, or needing just a little bit of help to learn, to listen, maybe to even agree and find something that's applicable to you to take away from this show and help you in your everyday life while you maybe struggle, or maybe a loved one of yours continues to go through their long recovery process, because it is a very long process. And me, myself, I hope that, again, that this show kind of turns into an experiment as well. Me, myself, again, I'm very early on in the recovery process. Right now, truly, has only been 6 weeks sober at this point. And I got to be honest as well, I'm not completely sober. I still smoke marijuana every now and then, so we got to just be honest with each other. A lot of stories are going to come out in this show. It's going to be very emotional. It's going to be very informative. And really, it's going to be a little bit for everybody. However, I will say this is going to, at some times, become a very explicit show. So I wouldn't necessarily say that this is directed at children by any means, but again, you might be able to take something away from this program and maybe teach those children yourself. Again, for me personally, I would like to act more as a transference device, using the skills that I have in radio, in broadcasting. Again, I've got a microphone, I've got a will to help myself, and maybe you out there as well that might be broadcasting or listening into the broadcast. Again, that's really what I would like to be. I myself have gotten many different textbooks that we're going to be looking at. The big book, AA, again, we're going to be doing a lot of what AA would be doing. We're going to try and have that feel very similar. So maybe you haven't even walked in the doors of an AA meeting. We, as we always will here on this program, normally we would have already gotten to it by now, but as always with first episodes, it's going to be pretty informational. But we will take a moment of silence for those still suffering out there. We will also read the Serenity Prayer, and then we will also go through how it works, which again is really the basic steps of how AA is. And really, again, AA is a great base model. I do want to say that this show isn't just for alcoholics. It's not just for addicts. It's for those out there that have that addictive personality, maybe on one thing or the other, but obviously with substances and alcohol, it can really come back to bite you in the ass. I'll tell you what, it's been difficult for me, and I know it's difficult for others out there as well. So really, I want this show to be just another avenue that you can go maybe to get some information on your own time. Again, going to an AA meeting that you might not fit into a little bit. Maybe it's an older generational group. Maybe it's folks that really don't use the same substance as you or are in the same act as you or whatever it may be. Maybe you just don't fit quite well into those groups, which is okay. And it is common, especially in smaller towns. There's really only a couple anonymous groups. But I will say, by the end of this show, by the end of this episode, really, I am hoping to encourage you to maybe go to an AA meeting, maybe get yourself help when it comes to hospitalizations or inpatient work. I myself went through it and even got out and relapsed. So it happens. And it's going to be a long process. So, again, I want this show to be kind of an experiment. You get to see me, really, and I'm not that special by any means, but the anonymity for me is out the window. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. Probably didn't, but it's out the window. You're going to get to know a lot about me. You're going to get to hear stories of how I acted at this time. And again, I want you to apply that maybe to somebody that you know. I was a master of manipulation. I was a great masker of the truth. And I always would claim that I wasn't lying, but I just wouldn't include the entire truth. So I wasn't being truthful. I wasn't lying in my brain, but I wasn't being truthful. So you might be able to take away some signs, some things that I do that maybe you see in a loved one of yours. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's a relative. Just kind of some attitude. Because I have a positive attitude. And unfortunately, for a lot of addicts out there, they are trying to escape. And that's unfortunate. Those are kind of the not really obvious ones, but those are the ones that are more apparent. In my case, I made it very secretive. Not a whole lot of people knew, unless if you were in my tight circle, knew what was going on. I used every day for years and years and years. And no matter really what it was, marijuana on the daily, alcohol quite a bit after I turned 21, and in fact, lost jobs. I'm surprised I'm not in any legal issues. I'm thankful for that. So in comparison to a lot of other folks out there who have spent time behind bars due to this disease and due to this allergy, who have spent time, in different hospitalizations many different times, and who knows, I may go back as well. You're going to be able to experience everything. Another relapse. Right now, we're 6 weeks strong, and that's what's important right now. And what's important is that you join me and maybe take away a couple of things. So really enough about me. Let's get a little bit more back to the show and the program. The basis of the show, again, is going to feel a little bit like an AA meeting. We're going to get to the 12 steps and how it works here in just a moment. We're going to run through the Serenity Prayer as well as give a moment of silence for those still suffering. And then for the next hour, again, that's all an AA meeting ever really is. I mean, usually goes right about an hour that you really need to take out of your day. It's not too bad, and if you can do it here, you can apply that somewhere around your community and truly find yourself a sponsor and more personable help. I want to be the stepping stone to the next level. I myself am going through the steps. You can, again, just kind of watch how we start and begin this whole process together. So here's what the shape of the show is going to look like. Obviously, we're going to open up every day with a similar feel to it, as I just explained. We're going to kind of go over what we're going to be getting to. And yes, we will have some guests on the show in time. I would love to hear from you guys as well. We've got an email listed down here. It's simply-difficult@outlook.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to be a part of the show as well, we'd love to have you. Even if it's just a note that you would like to leave, maybe some advice, maybe there is a story that you would like to tell, you can stay completely anonymous. However, again, you can send that to that simply-difficult@outlook.com. I'd love to hear your story. I'd maybe love to, really hear your side of things. Maybe you're 2 hours sober. Maybe you're 20 years sober. I want to hear everybody's story. And if we can, if you allow it, again, I won't be sharing things that people don't say that I can't. We will share it out with the other people as well, because that's something that I take away from AA and something that you'll learn when you go as well. And hopefully from here, is hearing others' stories, hearing my story, hearing somebody else that's been 15 years through the process, their story, and not necessarily how they got started. This is not a show about how much we can use and how much we used to do. Some things might slip out. I don't know. We might get a little crazy. We might get a little emotional sometimes, but that's not the premise of the show by any means. We might look back and laugh a little. We might look back and look how just stupid it was in general. So it's going to be a wide variety of things, and I want you as addicts out there to feel comfortable. I want people out there that might just be curious about what's going on inside of an addict's head to be comfortable here and truly, again, as the title of the show says, really just dissipate the harsh line of the simply difficult conversation that addicts need to have, maybe with themselves, a loved one, and maybe vice versa. A loved one needs to have with somebody that they might be concerned of addiction. So here today, it is show number 1, so we might as well just start out with step number 1. Again, we're going to get to how it works here in just a minute, but we're going to look out of the big book today. We're going to look out of the little book as well, the little red book. I was able to get this as well, kind of just a more basic interpretation of the steps, and then the big book as well. These are obviously provided at a lot of different AA groups throughout your community. I do suggest that you buy one for yourself, but we're going to be going through, again, just kind of the initial steps. It's episode 1, so we might as well start out with step 1. We're really going to go through that. We're going to hear my interpretation of things through the readings. Again, it's not going to be as boring as me just reading the book by any means, but we are going to go through the readings. We are going to take a peek at what they say, and then we're going to take them and interpret them ourselves. I'll take my angle. I want you at home to think at your angle as well, and again, there might be something in there that you can apply. We'll take a look at also different tools and skills that you might be able to take away. Not really in today's episode, but as the show progresses on, we will bring on, again, other experts and specialists that might be able to really give us things, whether it's meditation, whether it is yoga or exercise or different skills that you can take away, not necessarily only physical, but also mentally to help you. But today's program, again, step 1, episode 1, really let's kind of get right into things here. But before we do, as we always do, we will first take a moment of silence for those still suffering out there, followed by the Serenity Prayer. And you can join me in the Serenity Prayer if you would like here in just a moment. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, really, let's get right into the next thing, as here is how it works.
Here's how it works.
Folks, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates, and they're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take these certain steps. At some of these we did balk. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, our own way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we're dealing with drugs and alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power, and that one is God. And may you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon, and here are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. Step number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, became to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn over our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves for 4. And number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6 includes entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of characters, and 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Then 8 and 9 include making a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. followed by 9, making those direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when you would do so, injuring them or others. Number 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we know Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And the final step, having a spiritual awakening. As the result of these prior steps, we try to carry this message to other alcoholics and addicts to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What in order? I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if He were sought.
Welcome back. I had a little fun creating that. I just figure kind of reading through the entire how it works every time might be exhausting for myself, and figured might as well make a model that really doesn't have anything, any stumbles over it, any uhs or ohs, or any stumbles over the bookwork there. So hey, I had a little fun creating that. What the heck? Put it together. So that is how it works. Again, at an AA meeting, that's something that you'll hear every single time. Most groups usually do go through that at the very beginning every single time, and then again, they kind of find a reading and interpret it for themselves. But here today, step number 1, we'll get to that again here in just a minute. Did want to fill you in on a little bit more about me, obviously. Just, again, I too am a recovering addict right now. And in fact, Sam Speck, am an alcoholic.
Hi, Sam.
That's right. I did create a sounder that says, "Hi, Sam back." You're going to hear that many times at AA as well, or NA, or any of these. Again, yes, I did read the AA script from the AA Big Book, but there are a lot of similarities that they do bring over from the Big Book into Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. Never been to a Sex Anonymous, but I would imagine that they have a similar step work and a similar kind of feel to the area. So again, really, I'm just trying to make this show feel a little bit more about that. As I had mentioned, I am not a licensed professional and would like to be more of a transference and more of an avenue of, while I learn and interpret and take all of this information in, I share it with you and hopefully help you as well through the process. So again, I'm a recovering alcoholic and an addict. For the last 3-4 years, I've been an opiate addict, whatever it may have been. Pills, fentanyl, now recently. I was never IV, thankfully. Everything was up the nose. Absolutely. Everything was up the nose even before that. But really, before I turned 21, everything was the uppers. It was the party stuff. I loved kind of continuing to go. But after 21 and after really, really diving deep into drinking alcohol and feeling that suppressant and that depressing, feel that your body goes through, the sedative, the downers became a big part of my life. And they have completely encapsulated really my almost train of thought for the past year. I was a slave to my phone. I would sit there waiting for a Snapchat to open on somebody to maybe get back to me on that has pills, or who's got the best deal, who's got them today, who's got the stronger ones today. Once you start fucking with fentanyl, then you really start putting that up in the air. And I don't even know why you do that. You know the thing is dangerous, and it's even more dangerous, but it's so readily available nowadays, and it's unfortunate. And then again, your mind and your decision-making goes out the window. That's what happened to me. Really just dug right into it. I just fell in love with them. And for me personally, which differs from others as well, there are others out there that are taking to use to escape really dangerous traumas, really, something that has hurt them in the past that they are trying to escape or hide or mask. And that is something, yes, we all have our traumas, really, that I didn't have too much of an issue when it came to applying it to addiction. For me, I tried to ride this train of a little bit of being, inebriated every single day. I wanted to go out in the world and enjoy what it felt like on these drugs at all times. Now, there are some people that are trying to mask feelings and are trying to hide things, and that is a dangerous recipe that can result in, again, I don't want to say my story is bad, and I don't want to say somebody else's is a lot worse, but everybody's is going to go all up and down in the variance of maybe severity and what happened in why it's happening, it's different for every single person out there. So I understand. And again, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your story. There's that email down there that really is going to be open to anybody that you can be a part of this program. And yes, we're going to go through them all. We're going to go through all of the emails. We've gone through a couple of today. I actually got sent a pretty nice video. It's something I saw on Facebook. We'll get to it in our final segment today. But really just a nice reminder for those out there to continue on. I'm sure you've maybe seen it's kind of a viral video now, but the guy, more of a TikTok, I guess, kind of stands in the middle of the road and gives you a nice speech. So I found a nice video of that guy again. We'll play that at the end of the video. Really, that is what our last segment is designated for, is just kind of a nice interpretation maybe of a spiritual reading or something that I find online that, again, you can just apply right in that very moment and take with you as this episode ends and as we make our way into next week as well. Because we're going to be here every week, 1 hour a week to start. Maybe we'll get some more episodes as time goes on. But for now, again, every Saturday, 1 hour a week is when you could be joining us. We are going to be dropping a few episodes as we open up the channel, but then again, consistently, you can expect us here on every Saturday. So I'm 25 years old. I, again, don't have a background in any sort of doctorate, so don't try and claim in the comments or don't try and claim anything that I have any fucking clue what I'm talking about, okay? I am, again, trying to interpret and learn myself and go through this process with you guys. So that's a little bit about me. And again, you are going to learn a lot about me and my actions and the way I talk and the way that I, sit here and hide the fact that, I have a serious problem. I really do. And that was an issue for me. Other people, they're a little bit more obvious. But, I want this to be an interesting show. I want it to be a little bit about everything. So, again, thanks for joining us. Whether, again, you yourself are there right on the edge of maybe wanting to go to a meeting, maybe wanting to get yourself help at a rehabilitation center, inpatient, outpatient, hospitalization, whatever your route may be, that is putting into action step number one. And that's where we're going to start today. Again, episode 1, step 1. Let's get to it here. Is because step 1 is the realization of what's going on. Now, I don't necessarily think that completes step 1. I think that is step 0.5, is just the realization of what's going on. Because for me, it was a good solid year and a half of a realization of exactly I knew what was going on. I did, and I still chose every day to drink or to use or to smoke or to whatever that the combination may have been. Maybe it was just the neens for the day, caffeine, nicotine. Maybe it was just that for the day. I don't know. Every day there was something. Absolutely. I mean, it got to the point where, I'm the guy at 11 o'clock. It became such a system, waiting for the liquor store to open. They had my order ready. And for some reason, I justify paying $4.30 for a vodka and a can of soda. Then I can do it a couple of times a day. It got ridiculous. It really did. And that was all while I knew what I was doing. I did. Even before that, I just thought I was, I'm 21, 22, 23. I'm 25 now. But, hey, I'm the age where I'm in college, right? This is what I would be doing if I was still in college, right? I'd still be partying. I'd still be drinking. I'd still be doing all of this. But instead, I more and more became more isolated. My wife and I, we've moved around the country while I continue to do my radio career and strive into that. And she's gotten herself into a nice college so she can continue on with her education and maybe find a career for herself on down the line. So we've done well. We've done well. And really in this last year and a half, I had that realization where, man, I'm 24, I'm 25. I need to start putting something else into action. And that's what I mean. So step 0.5 is the realization. That's just half of step number 1, because there's so many addicts and so many alcoholics out there that know exactly what's wrong and know that they're stuck in a hole right now, but still they've got their dealer on the line. Still they're looking at their Snapchat waiting for the dealer to open up. You got left on red. How irritating is that when you're just trying to get a hit? Or the liquor store isn't open. And my God, I can't imagine those out there that, for me personally, it was basically every day at 11 o'clock. I'm at work, just about getting off lunch. I'm sitting there, and I say, I don't want to drink today. I don't need it. I don't want to drink. And all of a sudden, I'm pulling into the liquor store parking lot. Same thing. Like I said, they knew my car. They knew my parking spot. They knew my exact order. $4.15, bottle of Barton vodka. and a Mountain Dew every day. And I told myself before I even would go in there, I don't need it. I don't need it. And same thing with buying pills. It's like, really? And then you get the pills, and it's right back to business. So really, the realization is step 0.5. Step 1 is when you start putting things into action. And what I mean by putting things into action is by realizing and then taking those steps, whether it's this program, whether it's an AA group, whether it's finding a sponsor, or again, whether it's going into hospitalizations, whether it's going into inpatient, whether it's finding some medication that might help you. However, I will say medication it might be half the battle, might help take away a little bit of the urges, a little bit of the aches and pains of the sickness, but really not the best way out. It's helped many people, and again, I don't want to be judgmental. It's helped me. Again, I continue to smoke marijuana because I believe it's medicinally helping me. So I use that in the same manner. However, especially for opiates, that's the tricky one, is you want to get stuck on one or the other. I didn't want to get stuck on really any of them all, and I've been trying to wean off. It's difficult, believe me. 6 weeks, though, is where we're at. I damn near got up to 3 months right when I got out of rehab, but we're up to 6 weeks now, right as we got out, or right here through the new year, as we finish off January of 2021. Thank God 2020 is behind us. Hopefully we can make this one a little bit better. But step 1, again, here's what we'll look out of the little red book here, and I suggest that you guys do find some of these pieces of text, whether it's the big book, the AA book, the big blue one, the NA book, the 12 Steps and Traditions books. We've got the little red book is what we're going to be reading out of, and then the big book as well, kind of comparing notes from the two of them. But here's we go. Step 1, paragraph 1 says, men and women who are allergic to alcohol. And I love that word for me personally, because I don't want to say I'm an individual that struggles with the word disease when it comes to this. However, allergy does kind of make a little bit more of a sense. It's your brain not reacting as what another would to this in particular substance. Like for me personally, I drink alcohol or I take an opiate, I'm up. Man, I immediately almost turn it into an upper. Like I'm go, continue. I need it. It's my fuel. That's what, I mean, for some reason, my body shifted things. And yes, it's in my bloodline. And in fact, I was even warned as a child that I had addiction in my bloodline. Not really in my immediate family, but in my family line on down. It is hereditary. Absolutely it is. So there was already those channels, those pathways in your head that made it easier for me to make that decision, that made it easier to want to go to alcohol. So yeah, I can't necessarily say and agree fully that it was a disease. However, I'm not going to argue with those that do believe it is a disease, because it is, in my opinion, an allergy or a disease, whatever that you would like to call it. You yourself have had and burnt a channel into your brain that is completely different from someone else's. You have changed your thought process. You've changed your brain chemistry completely when you have something like this. So yes, there is something going on, and that's a big interpretation and misinterpretation of those that are looking from the outside in. There is something going on inside the mind of an addict. It's not just somebody fiending, wanting to get more. Yeah, I've been there, and I've been fiend before. Hell, it's just like, man, let's get high today. Something like that. I don't know, let's get hammered. Whatever it may have been. Yeah, I've had that feeling before, but that's not what's going on. And there's a big misinterpretation from those, again, looking from the outside in, that just think that that's all that's going through our minds. That's all that's going through our brains. But in reality, again, you have just created such an easy shortcut for your train of thought. You find it so normal that your train of thought goes to using so quickly. That's what you did. You burnt an easy hole and an easy area for your brain to go to. So there is something going on. So within the first, paragraph of this, just a quick interpretation of what the disease, the allergy, I truly believe allergy almost fits more as a better term for it than disease. I'm not saying it's not a disease. It really not. I'm saying you do have something going on inside your brain. Again, so allergic to alcohol and who compulsively persist in drinking eventually become sick from a unique illness. The illness known as to medicine as alcoholism. It's unique that it adversely affects us physically, mentally, and spiritually. It's a good one to note as well. I'm different than you. Like I had mentioned, there's some alcoholics out there that are the blackout alcoholics are the ones that go crazy. I had friends that were physical. For Christ's sake, one kid had a couple of drinks and it was time to fight for some reason. I had no idea why. I was kind of the sloppy, fun guy, right? The guy that had all the energy, tried to come up with different ideas for things to go do, was kind of sloppy and was like, hey, man, I don't know. I was, again, from the outside looking in, that's kind of what I thought I was like. Maybe I was a little bit different. I don't know if you personally knew me, but there's a wide variety of different types of alcoholics. And how you, again, kind of act upon while you were there is a big sign of how and maybe you can help yourself get out of those things. For me personally, again, it was a social type of thing. I loved to be around. And I don't want to say that I just took myself out of social gatherings or things like that, but hell, it made it a lot easier and kind of took away my intention to just party, use. I'm not surrounded by as many. However, I did learn that being alone and individualized was really dangerous for me as well throughout my process. So, again, really like that. Whether you think it's a disease, an allergy, or whether you don't believe it at all, I do want to say this. There is, you can look it up, a neurological pathway that gets burnt into your brain. Will you do it enough? Again, I will say, you are the one that made the choice to take those. It's unfortunate, but we're here now. You're the one that made the choice to take those. However, your brain maybe was more susceptible, as mine was, hereditarily, more susceptible for those decisions to turn out negatively. Absolutely. So, all right, let's take a look through the big book now. Again, this is available pretty much at any AA group. They usually have them that you can either rent out, just use while you're there. I would suggest that you get one so you can take one home with you. But did want to, again, kind of get to a couple of different things within these first couple of chapters of the big book here. The doctor's opinion, we'll get to Bill's story as well, but we'll also get back to kind of the step one part of things, because we're still on step 0.5, the realization of what's going on, the realization that your brain, that your mind might not necessarily be the same as even somebody as close as your sisters or somebody as close as your parents and your immediate family or your best friend, somebody that you've known and done the same things with. That's what blew my mind, is I did a lot of these things with a lot of my friends, and none of them, well, some of them didn't necessarily turn out to be as bad as really I let mine get to. And it blew me away. It's like, how? We did the same things. We were on the same substance. We did it at the same time. Why? What's going on? So again, my brain took it and flipped it, as an allergy would, and completely changed the way that my brain interpreted that substance, and completely changed the way on how I interpreted what was going on. I just, especially when I was alone and living alone, I became so impulsive. I became so justifiable in what I was doing. I found any reason to justify what I was doing, especially financially. Fuck. It's like, just because I can afford this, then it's not any danger to me. I'm doing well in my job. I'm doing well in what I'm doing. Financially, it's not necessarily affecting me, even though I'm just sucking money out of both bank accounts, both parents, friends. I mean, hell, pawning shit off, whatever you got to do. I never really got into the sticky fingers. Now, of course, some people, again, the criminality does come out, which is unfortunate. But they're doing what they got to do to get that, what they think they've got to do to get that fix or to get to that next step. And again, it just changes the way that you think. It really does. It changed the way that I think. It did. And it still has. I still think about it. I have using dreams like you would not believe. I think about it all the time. But I've just got to continue one day at a time, realizing that I am making this first step. I am making this first step, and I'm continuing it. And hell, for the first month, maybe for the first 2 months, you can tell yourself that every day. This is still my first step. And by the end of it, you might be 40 days down the line. That was an easy 40 days. And then you get 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Telling yourself that every day is a big motivator and a big item that is taught within AA. One day at a time. That's it. One moment at a time is sometimes what you have to think about it. If you're really going through a tough day, it's just one moment at a time. You just have to realize that you're going to get through it. Time goes on. And unfortunately, the shitty days are the ones that are the longest for some reason, right? You just spend it all day moping around, maybe dope sick, maybe something like that, and it's like, damn, it's only 11:30 in the morning. It feels like it's been all day. I've been there. It's tough. But one day at a time, all you got to do is tell yourself, every morning, I can do this. Just today. Today is all. Maybe tomorrow we plan on doing something. Now, I don't really have that attitude, but still, you don't necessarily have to think, I'm going cold turkey right now. Just going complete cold turkey. You don't have to have that mindset. You just have to have the mindset that today, I'm not going to use today. I'm not going to drink today. I am not going to continue on with this step today. That is fully completing step number 1. And then I think also within the full completion of step number 1 is finding outside help. Because we go now into the big book here. Again, I suggest that you do read through them. But we look at the doctor's opinion. And if you were to read through the doctor's opinion, I have a couple of times, obviously, it's just a couple of pages, but if you are to read through the doctor's opinion really goes in depth to what the treatment of alcoholism back in the day really looked like. And it was more of a Western medicine aspect to things of trying to cure alcoholics. There's a certain medicine out there, right? There's a penicillin for everything, so we need to apply it to alcoholism, and we need to apply just more hospitalizations, more just trying to apply more into science, right? Because that makes sense a lot of times when it comes to dealing a lot, even with mental health, but physical health. Science and technology have been huge strides into the reason why we are as advanced as we are today. But this was a little different. Alcoholism is a little bit different here. Because, again, taking that first step and completing that first step means you need to reach out. You can't do this alone. You have to reach out. You absolutely do. And, again, maybe this is your half step right here, joining us on Simply Difficult every week. I don't know. Maybe that is your half step. But your full, complete step needs to be going to a meeting. Or if you need it, going to an inpatient facility, 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. I don't know. Whatever feels comfortable for you. You need to learn different skills. You need to take that step. And maybe the step is just talking with someone, finding a addiction counselor, or finding someone somewhere to talk to tell your story. And again, I would love to maybe have you on. If you have Skype, if you have FaceTime, maybe you just want to explain your story in a written manner. Again, email us simply-difficult@outlook.com. We'd love to have your story on. Take notes from it. Take your advice. Maybe you're a 20-year recovering addict or alcoholic, and you have great advice for us. We would love to take that and go with it. But back to this, the doctor's opinion again, long story short, explains that after all of his experience, after all of his trial and error through more Western medicine aspect look into treating alcoholism, I believe after 25 years, he had a 2% success rate. That's it. 25 years of trying and testing and failing. 2% of all of his patients that he brought in trying to get off alcohol did not work alone. And it didn't work with some magic medicine. And it didn't work with just a poof, here you go, you're better. It didn't. It happened when gentlemen and women got together and started talking about these things and started realizing, first of all, that they're not alone, and second of all, that this might be something that is out of control now. Listen, you had control when it was the start of things, right? It's your first drink, it's your first beer. I mean, we're going way back. First drink, your first beer. I mean, it's not like you just straight up take a sip of Busch Light and boom, alcoholic, right? Or you take a puff of marijuana and it's like heroin next, right? No, it's not what happens. There's a line of successional decisions that you made, but now that you made them, you're kind of stuck now. And again, it is something that some people are more susceptible to. Some people's brains, right when this happens, they attach onto it. That allergy effect, the disease is what it is. Alcoholism, addiction, you are trapped, quote unquote, and you're okay. And that's something, again, that these AA programs at the premise, really, I mean, they have 12 steps now that we listened to at the beginning, but really at the beginning it was just 4 or 5, really. 4 or 5, which was to talk in that communal manner, to listen, give advice, to give back, pray, and meet, and be together. That togetherness factor was the big difference. That again, just being a part of this unity. And for some reason, we have now grown into a society, well, really, it's been like this forever. Drug users are almost immediately a criminalistic look, right? Oh, you're a drug user, you're a drug addict. That means that, probably shouldn't mess with you. That's criminal. It's criminal. It's kind of a hands-off, taboo kind of moment when some people look at that, or some people listen to you, or again, you're reaching out and trying to talk. So it's very difficult sometimes to find the right people to talk to about these things. Big reason as to why I want this show to welcome in many different people, many different aspects, is to try and eliminate that line. But that is kind of what happens, is maybe an addict or an alcoholic, they feel more like it would benefit them to just keep it a secret, to keep it away, to not really talk about it. Everybody has this viewpoint of me right now. What would they think if I came out, just 100% came out and said, I have an issue, I have a problem? For me, that was an incredibly difficult hurdle. I'm not very social when it comes to social media. I'm not very active. There is my Twitter handle down there somewhere, but I'm not very active on it. You're probably not going to be very entertained. There's a lot of radio stuff, a lot of sports stuff. But I finally came out and admitted on Facebook for the first time. That was incredibly difficult for me. It was a large hurdle. However, now, again, I just really wanted to put into action something like this show, something like this program, so I can talk about it and other people maybe can start this talk about it, because truly, it's a simple conversation to have. However, for that one individual, it's incredibly difficult. Thus, the name of the show. So, step 1, again, step 0.5 really, is that realization that something's going on. Step number 1 is putting that realization into action. So again, I think there's 2 parts to step 1. A lot of people overlook this kind of step because, it's like, hey, I'm in rehab, or court sent me to rehab, or so now I'm here. So yeah, I'm at step 1. No, that's not really step 1. Step 1, again, is that realization, which a lot of addicts and alcoholics have years and years before they really put step 1 into action. They have that realization. Putting it into action is what is going to make long-term recovery possible. For me, again, I'm at the very beginning, but these are things that I have heard from folks that give me confidence, that give me hope, that give me faith. I myself am not a very religious individual at all, but listening to their stories, listening to other folks out there at other AA meetings, or maybe through the email, or here through this program, you are going to learn and realize that you're not alone out there, and that you can talk about these things. And after talking about these things, maybe you can get together with your family, with your loved ones, or with the many different great groups and available things within communities out there to help yourself. You need to help yourself sometimes. And I know it's a burden. You think it's a burden. Maybe it's a hassle to get your family involved, to have them, know, and now they got to worry, and now they got to do this. They want you better. They don't want you overdosing. They don't want you, getting into a drunk driving accident one night or something just because you didn't, you couldn't quite grasp the courage to come out and say it, because it's difficult. It's incredibly difficult to finally come out and say, I am a drug addict, or I am an alcoholic. And then pursuing step number 1 and moving on to step 2. Of course, in later episodes, we'll get, we'll do step work randomly. We'll kind of go through there. We'll have different, when I was in rehab, we learned a lot of different skills, like DBT skills, which again is more on the mental side of things. It's more on the realization that you have burnt a new pathway into your brain that is almost unstoppable now. Okay, yeah, you made the decisions before you got there, but now it is almost unstoppable. So we'll learn a lot about like that. We'll get some stories from other addicts and some from professionals as well. So really, I want this show to be a wide range of things. And hopefully within today's expression of step number 1, again, I think there's kind of 2 to 3 different steps of step number 1, because a year, damn near 2 years went by where I'm convinced I'm not going to drink for the day, and then all of a sudden I'm walking in the liquor store. I'm convinced that I'm not going to use any pills for the week, and then all of a sudden I find $30, somehow manipulate my way into getting money. So I go get more pills. I go get more drugs. I continually make that decision, and that is tough. It really is. And then the final moment, that final push of step number 1 is reaching out. It is reaching out and getting help, because whether it's in rehab, whether it's an AA group, guess what? You're going to talk, and it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. It is. It's going to be difficult to maybe come out and get emotional and be a part of this, but it's something that you got to get off your chest, or else you're going to just continue to try and smash it, try and put it away. So that'll finish our work out of both the big books today. Again, the little red book, the big blue book, the big AA book. I suggest that you guys get one of these, both of these, doesn't matter, especially the big AA book, or, again, if you are interested in going to different anonymous groups, Narcotics, Cocaine Anonymous. I think there is a Meth Anonymous. That it's really kind of tough to find those unless you're in a kind of a meth hotspot. Other than that, they just kind of dissolve. Sex Anonymous, so, many different anonymous groups out there. I am sure that they have their own text. So certainly get one of those, read through it, but really it's going to take somebody that has read through it and taken the steps from somebody that went through those steps before you, such as a sponsor, for you to truly interpret those steps. So I'll be a help to you. I don't want to necessarily say I will be your virtual sponsor by any means, because I don't have any long-term sobriety underneath my belt. But again, more of a transference service. I am going to take what I receive, what I learn, and teach it on to you and really give it to you. So, all right, as we finish today's program, we'll take a look at a couple of things. Again, I got a nice video for you at the end. It is not my video. Credit is due certainly where credit is served, and we'll give his tag. We'll give all of the stuff that you can go and check out his videos. But really, a guy that gives nice inspirational speeches and just a kind of a good feel that we'll end this first episode with. But let's take a look at gratitude. And again, this is a lot of different things that you'll learn within the DBT training that we'll go through here, that I was taught, that I was really exposed to within my time in inpatient. We'll learn a lot of different skills, but a lot of different things that, again, are more on the mental side of things, not just physically putting into action, but also mentally thinking and believing and changing what you're physically doing. So it's on both sides. As we said from the doctor's opinion there, if you read through it, it's a long, long list and a long, long time that he would go through and try and find a magic medicine, a magic solution to fix alcoholism, and only a 2% success rate. It was only until he found, again, the creator, Bill Story, and they get into his side of things, that they really kind of get to the basis of what AA truly does for people. Is it allows them to grow and listen and talk about what they've been doing and the realization of what it's doing to them and their loved ones. Again, for some reason, I would try and justify things financially, right? And say, oh, I can afford this. I haven't lost my job. I've got nothing going in front of me. Oh, that was my justification for some reason. Oh, my wallet's not going to be. Meanwhile, I'm just sucking money out, not even realizing it. But my wallet's not going to be affected by this. But what about my wife? What about my sister? What about my parents or my great friend group? I mean, what about those in around you that care for you? Where was that justification then at that moment? Where was that gratitude? Where was that being grateful? There's a great quote from Buddha. He says, let us rise up and be thankful, for if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we did not learn a little, at least we did not get sick. And if we did get sick, at least we did not die. So let us all be thankful. Gratitude is, the definition really is the quality of being thankful and the readiness to show appreciation and return kindness. And I think the premise of AA, not really in premise, but kind of the whole outline is gratitude. Is, again, there's sometimes 20-year veterans, 20-year long-term recovering alcoholics in there. They don't have to be there every day. They, mentally, I'm sure it gives them stability. I don't know long-term recovery. I'm sure it gives them stability to say, hey, yeah, I can still do this 20 years down the line. But at the same time, they're also giving back time to those that might be new to an AA group. You are truly giving back maybe your knowledge, maybe your story. So for those out there that might not have a group that's kind of the same age as you, or maybe not the same similarities, you can really learn a lot from those guys that maybe have been in there for the long time. Because again, after 15 years, I don't want to say that you need to stop coming. That's not what I'm saying. But they still come. They are still coming. And I believe after 15 years, it turns more kind of into helping the next generation, passing this on, taking the knowledge that they have learned in that 15 years and handing it to someone else. All knowing, again, that this disease could come back and bite them in the ass, or something could happen. that would lead to a relapse or something. Even after long-term recovery, it can happen. But you, as an individual out there, can learn so much from those people. And again, I think that's a great outline of what AA really is, because there's a wide range of individuals there, AA, all of them. Whether they're younger, middle-aged, older age, doesn't matter. You need to take and listen into what's going on. So being grateful is a feeling that many people experience as they leave treatment, or as, again, even leaving a group of AA, or maybe even leaving this program. You learned something. You're excited that you can maybe apply what you learned into maybe doing something and doing something positive. We'll read, why is gratitude important in recovery? It says, gratitude is not just a nice thing to practice. It is rather an essential tool to long-term recovery. Being grateful reminds us that even when things go wrong, there's still plenty of things to be thankful for. We look back to that quote that Buddha had mentioned. It's basically, saying, oh, I got a broken hand, but at least I can move my arm. Oh, as bad as things can get, at least you're still here. As sick as you can get, at least you're still here. So before we get out of here, again, I've got a nice video that we'll get to, as well as the how to practice gratitude in recovery. So here's some things to take home with you, maybe some skills that you can apply. How to practice in recovery on gratitude. Here's number one: focus on what you have rather than what you do not have. So for me personally, I struggle with this one all the time, because, a lot of, I don't want to say goal-oriented individuals, but for me, I set a mission. I'm almost tunnel vision. That's where I want to be. That's my goal. That's exactly what I want. And maybe I'm just a little short, or maybe it's taking a little bit too much time to get to that goal, or to that in particular thing that I want. I get anxious, and I get impatient, and I get ungrateful for what is actually, that tunnel vision completely destroys my ability to look around and accept I have four walls around me. I do. I have a lot of friends and addicts that have been homeless, that spent time under a bridge, that spent time in the rain. That I grew up with an individual that went through years and years of not being wanted by anybody, parents, friends, anything like that. And this guy had the biggest smile on his face, and it's how? How? So you can be grateful, even on the shittiest of days. And for me, I would get such tunnel vision because I had, again, such a goal. I wanted that. I wanted whatever it was I was looking at, or whatever I wanted. I wanted it. I wanted it right now. And I would gain tunnel vision, and I wouldn't look around me and be grateful for the things. Number two, ponder a recent life lesson that you have learned as well. Learn those lessons. And then number three, make it a goal to give to others daily. Whether it's opening the door, whether it's, complimenting somebody's outfit or somebody's car, something, I don't know. Making somebody smile. There's a legitimate brain interaction that happens when two individuals smile at each other. So whatever it may be, give back to somebody. Number four, focus on the best in others instead of the worst. This, hey, sounds like high school all over again, man. I thought that was over. But it really isn't, especially for those people that most of the time, especially in a world of social media, a lot of when we think the worst of people is because we see them online and either can't believe that, or it's just, what the hell is this person doing? Who cares? Who cares? That's out of your reach anyway. And plus that person's just expressing themselves, the picture. For God's sakes, I mean, the amount of stress that I believe social media brings people, and again, really pushes you to focus almost on the worst of people. Would be that. So focus on the best in others instead of the worst. Number five, take an inventory of your life. That would be something that you will also do within AA and the step work. But an inventory is just kind of what are the good and the bad things that you do? Really, what are the good and bad things? You don't have to get nitty-gritty just yet, but what are the good things? And highlight those things. Write them down and accentuate them. Maybe do them a couple of more times a day, and then find out the bad things that you do. Maybe cut that out a little bit. Maybe take it back just a tad. Start viewing challenges as opportunities and be kind to others. And then 8 and 9 include take time to think about the things you're thankful for and consider something or someone you have now that you did not have in your addiction. So whether that was somebody in the group, maybe that's just us now. Maybe it's just me and you. Or, again, maybe it's somebody in your group, a sponsor, a new friend, a pal, doesn't matter. So those are 9 things to kind of take with you on how to practice gratitude in recovery. And, of course, we'll get to many different topics as the shows continue on. But let's get to this here. So I got sent to this by an email to me. His name is Kevin Lawson, I believe, is his TikTok. And he's got these great videos. He stands on a road, long road, right? Beautiful, video representation of the long road ahead. And he comes up with these great speeches, and this was his latest one. Again, his handle is at kevin.lawson on TikTok. I'm sure he's got many different pages, things like that. But here, give this a listen as we finish things up today.
Hey, you made it, but you look tired. You tired? Yeah, that was a rough stretch of road, wasn't it? Yeah, I get that. But listen, you go ahead and rest, because you earned it. But don't quit. And before you get back on that road, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to let go of all that dead weight. Let go of those mistakes. You don't have to live in them no more. Let go of those people who keep holding you back. Let go of everything that's holding you down. The only thing you need to bring with you on this stretch of road is faith. That's it. I'll see you at the next rest stop. Don't quit.
Gotta love those videos, man. Fantastic. And truly, just a great message really to take with you as you leave today. Again, join us every Saturday. We're going to be here 1 hour every single week. Really, thank you guys for hanging out with us here on this first episode. If you are listening recently when we have uploaded things, or maybe even way later on down the line, this is only episode 1 of many. And I hope that this show really progresses and turns into something that is very informational and very valuable, maybe for, again, so many times that I will sit on my couch and go through my social media or find videos or something like that. It's like, damn, that's pretty cool. Or, there is some beauty to being able to see everything in the world on your social media site. Again, I think it is a big reason why stress has increased is because of the now immediate endorphin rush that you can get from knowing everything. But there is a beauty to it, and learning these stories and taking different things away. You can gain a lot of inspiration from these videos. So hopefully, maybe one day I end up in front of you, give you a little inspiration to, again, take the step to get yourself from help. That was the whole point of today's program. Step number one is to not only, step 0.5, the realization, and then the full step 1 is finally taking that realization and putting some action into it, telling somebody, talking about it, and moving it forward. And whether that's an inpatient, outpatient program, hospitalization, just AA groups or counseling-led groups, it doesn't matter. You need to start to put things into action. So here's our final reading of the day, and kind of perfect as well. It's actually for January, today's date. So as we finish up January, it says, a moment of clarity. There was a moment of clarity that I was slapped with, a sudden realization of who I had become. This is what I'm talking about. That whole year that I spent knowing exactly what I was, but didn't want to. In that instant, the gut-wrenching truth lifted a burden of denial, and the fight was over. It wasn't about losing everything around me yet again, but discovering that my unimaginability came from within. Finally accepting myself as an addict and fully acknowledging the disease, I was able to set eyes and understand the pathway to freedom. Nothing short of complete surrender enables me to continue to work the remaining 11 steps. So what a blessed feeling to really uncover and believe the broad truth about powerlessness. When in contact with newcomers, it is vitally important to share the first step experience with others. So really, I hope you have enjoyed today's program and my experience with things as we finish up today. Again, we'll be back here on YouTube, on SoundCloud. We are going to try and expand out to as many different platforms as we can. I'd love to hear from you down here at this email, simply-difficult@outlook.com. But again, and we'll get to it here in just a moment, but really, whether it's this show, whether it's getting yourself to an AA meeting, whether it's getting to those programs, it's time to help yourself. And again, I hope this show is a great medium to maybe give you a little bit more confidence to talk about these things, or maybe to listen and learn and apply these different skills that we go through. So again, I appreciate you guys with us here today. I've got a little, again, always have a little fun. It's always what you got to do, have a little fun. So I created a nice little ending to the program here. But before we do get going, again, as your host, Sam Speck, Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. It's a difficult conversation to have. You're going to get to know a lot more about me, maybe too much sometimes, I understand, but join me next week here on Simply Difficult. And again, as we end things, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks again for joining me today. And see, an hour wasn't so bad. So get yourself to an actual AA meeting, rehab, or other anonymous groups. Meet a sponsor, new friends, and learn how to talk about this simply difficult journey to recovery. Because I know how difficult it is. When a substance dictates how good or bad your day is going to be, how it controls how you feel, and when it holds on to you, how you as a person changes. Dishonesty, manipulation, and no control of emotion. Well, I see you, and if it feels like nothing else can help, come join me next time on Simply Difficult.